Welcome back to the Infinite Rabbit Hole. I'm your host, Jeremy. Today we're going to dive into part 2 of our saga on Skinwalker Ranch. What is it? What is it, guys? What is Skinwalker Ranch?
Bunch
Don't
of,
answer. Don't answer. Don't
bunch
answer.
of baloney.
Don't answer. So last time on this last
That
time
mustache is baloney.
you're
Yeah.
baloney.
Oh boy.
Last time on Infinite Rabbit Hole, we jumped into the history of the Shermans and their time on the ranch. Today, we're going to dive into the NIDS team under Mr. Bigelow, and then we will be doing a part 3 where we go over and discuss the possible theories behind what's actually going on there, and we'll get into our personal opinions of the place. But before that, let's go ahead and bring everybody in, since everyone just loves talking over each other and me. Kid, you're the only one that didn't do it, so
It's because I'm polite.
I know. So, Jeff, how are you doing?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, man.
Good.
I'm sorry, kid. How are you?
Okay. I'm fantastic.
Good.
Thank you for asking.
You ready to jump back in the Skinwalker Ranch?
I am. I'm stoked.
So, I know that the 3 gentlemen that we have with us today all dove deep into the Skinwalker Ranch rabbit hole in between these 2 episodes. Did you?
I'm slightly embarrassed because I did not.
Oh, shame.
Not.
Slacker.
Shame.
I
Shame.
I
You're
did,
fired.
however, I really want to watch this show, and in Canada we can't get Hulu without a VPN, so I did go VPN hunting. So I tried.
Criminal.
Well, there's about 4 more days until part 3 gets recorded, so you have no time at all.
Never.
So,
There's
and
never
then
any time.
we'll bring the other guy in, since we already did, who also did not watch anything on Skinwalker Ranch. Jeff, we're bringing you back in.
How do
Because
you
I know
know?
I know you didn't. I know you did nothing.
Nothing. Whoa, that's a little.
Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
No, you're wrong.
Am I?
No, you're half right, half wrong. I did not watch
Oh.
anything about Skinwalker Ranch, but I also did not do nothing. Did not do nothing.
So I'm not wrong.
Mm.
You
You're
did
not right
nothing.
either, though.
You did nothing.
Y'all are wild.
Anyways, Wes couldn't wait until today. He had to go and buy the book that we basically I did most of my research off of. Not the only book that I did, but he went ahead and listened to the entire thing. So, Wes, how the hell are you doing today? And thanks for jumping to the end.
Jumping to the end.
Yeah.
What do you mean, jumping to the end?
You know all the secrets of Skinwalker Ranch now.
I already knew most of it. I just was brushing up on it,
It's
and
baloney, isn't it?
I hadn't read that book, so I had a long drive to my sister's wedding. So I bought the Audible version of it, and I listened to it on the drive out there.
It's got to be a horrible audio book.
Wait a minute.
No,
you
it's actually-
you shamed Kenzar for not, and now you're shaming Wes for.
Well, no, I'm shaming
Yeah,
Wes
yeah,
for going
Jeff.
too far.
Yeah,
I'm
Jeff.
shaming Wes for going too far. Okay, he didn't need to go and do the whole thing. He jumped to the last page of the podcast, and he's ruining it for himself. Now he's going to sit there.
Oh my god!
It's
You know what, Jeff? Shut
Jeremy's
up.
deflecting. Jeremy's deflecting because he's a giant scumbag.
So
I mean, that's why.
All right.
To get back to what you were saying, it was actually a great audiobook. It was like the person who read it or whatever, for Audible, like it was actually really good. I thought.
Really?
Yeah. Great delivery. Really sucked me in. And when I was out in the middle of nowhere in West Virginia, it was like I forget what part they're talking about. I don't want to spoil it, but it was like really creepy, kind of give me like hairs on the back of my neck standing up kind of feeling, and like literally when I say I'm in the middle of nowhere in West Virginia, like I haven't seen any other cars. I haven't seen any lights on the side of the highway or anything. No buildings, no type of civilization for like a couple miles or probably like 5-10 minutes. And then I'm around this corner. It's like midnight. and there's like just a dude standing on the side of the highway, like just
Yeah.
my headlights illuminate him, and I'm just like, what the?
Yeah. In case you
what
don't
the
know,
fuck?
that was
That
Indra
was.
Cole.
Good
I
thing
don't
you
know.
weren't a cow. You would have gone Reddit for that anus.
Oh boy.
Yep, would have taken it.
Would have had a gaper. No, I'm just kidding. But
Sir.
Anyways, as Wes is
anyways,
boy.
sipping
it
on
was
his
good.
drink, let's go ahead and bring in the guy who dove into the TV show.
Who's that?
My bestie.
Oh, me.
Yes, Jacob.
Okay. Well, just for the occasion, I'm wearing the Probe in Time t-shirt, as I totally believe this is a government thing, but that does not exclude the possibility for some good old-fashioned probing. So, definitely
I think it
that.
strengthens the fact.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Honestly.
Just to really seal the deal, you got to get probed. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to believe anymore because I've seen some really convincing, like, documentary type TV shows that are strictly entertainment based. They're all a bunch of nonsense, but I don't know. It's like because I want to get really big and into this TV show and everything that's going on, but it's really hard for me to buy everything that's going on and that nothing is scripted and nothing is, CGI and all this sort of stuff because I've seen all of that on other things. Like we were talking about, I'm just going to say it, Todd Standing and his TV show, his Finding Bigfoot TV show or whatever, where he's filming these
Not-
Muppet creatures. Right, and he's just like, these are big feet, and it's just like, no. And
Todd
it's like
Standing wasn't. I don't think he was on Finding Bigfoot. I don't know. I don't really watch the
it was
show.
it was some kind of Finding Bigfoot show is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it was a documentary. He does a
Yeah.
documentary where he has like a drone following him, and he's running through the stream in a ghillie suit, and he looks like a dumbass. To be honest with you, it's just horrible. Anyways, we'll talk about Todd Standing another day because that's a whole other episode.
Well, no, but that's just I just mean like that style of documentary where he's claiming that this is like a real thing, a real phenomenon that he's found, and there's pictures side by side of one of the what is it? One of the Bigfoot pictures, and then I think it's a picture of him right next to it. Two pictures, head on, and you can totally see the outline of his face and his facial features perfectly encapsulated inside this Bigfoot. So it's like obviously this guy was just dressed up in latex costume makeup and all this sort of crap, and it's just like right. So, but I see that exact same pattern of documentary journalism, whatever, emulated in this. And I agree, there's other parts where it's like, did they just hack that llama up or that emu and just they're like,
Did you see it?
I did.
The one with the
It's not an emu,
alpaca?
but the alpaca there, this bird or whatever. But no, did they hack it up or did something actually attack it? Right. So it's just like, okay, there's some things that I could buy, but other stuff where I'm just like, I don't know. But yeah, I'm enjoying the show. I think it's pretty interesting, but I don't know what to think about the actual episode. And I actually got some dirt. I got some dirt just from editing the last episode.
Good.
Is it on your upper lip?
Oh
no, I already had that.
Dude,
I'm
stop,
sorry,
man.
I'm just
I think he
kidding.
looks
I'm
good.
just
Look at
kidding.
that. Look at him. Look at him. Look at him. I think it's beautiful. It's beautiful, Jake. Don't listen to him.
Yeah.
I got to give him a little, just a little.
Let the no hair club over there, play with themselves.
I got
Yeah,
plenty of hair right here.
Whoa, bro.
I
Calm
got plenty
down.
of hair right here, right on my face.
Fired.
It just migrated down,
Anyways, it's one of those shows where it's like, what do you believe, right?
Nothing.
It's not
in
like
relation to this.
It's not like other documentaries of this kind of stuff where you walk in thinking that this is just going to be BS. Of course, you start the show, Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch, and you think this is all going to be BS, but then you see the science that they put behind it and techniques that they do, and you're like, okay, maybe. then they actually get some of the evidence on film, and you're like, man, I don't know. Possibly, did a cow literally just die underneath a UFO? Right? Is that something that actually happened? It's charming.
Right.
It's a charming show. It makes you want to believe, but at the same time, you're looking at it and you're like, there's got to be some kind of entertainment factor to this.
Right. And undoubtedly, they're using real scientists, and the real attorney general of Utah was there, right? There's real people, but that doesn't mean that they've never utilized a political figure or a scientist for a TV show or a movie. Like, they've never used Barack Obama for any of the movies that came out while he was the president, right? Where they're like, we need you to fake a press conference and say this thing so we can put it in the beginning, introduction to this movie or whatever, because there's a lot of that, right? It's like, come on.
I'm sure that Jeff would come out and say that that's never happened.
I don't answer a question. I can neither confirm nor deny. But no,
Very well.
probably...
All right. Well, we've been talking
neither
for
in this
11
case.
minutes. Let's move on to NIDS.
Before we do that,
Ooh,
can I clarify
ooh.
something from the last episode?
$20.
And then I want to clarify too.
Jeff
God.
always wants money.
Notes.
Oh my God! Look at that notebook.
All right, yeah. You know what? Let's start it this way. Go ahead.
right.
Wes, then Jake. Go.
Sorry, I told you beforehand I wanted to do this, but
Yeah.
So
And
Jake
no counter.
had the whole spiel about trying that. Like, why didn't this guy? It was Terry Sherman, right? That was his name.
Yep.
Terry Sherman. Why didn't he try to take a picture or get video evidence? And I was like,
because he was lying.
Well, apparently he did. He tried on multiple occasions, and just this whatever you want to call it, this phenomenon happening on the ranch, like, it somehow knew whenever he was trying to, like, film it or take pictures of it. And as we're going to get into, that seems to be a recurring theme, that it likes to play hard to get, so to speak.
And I would have taken that versus the idea that he just wasn't interested in that sort of stuff, because I was going.
Well, I
just
didn't say he wasn't interested.
Well, that he
That's not
was
what I said.
illiterate to technology,
I didn't say that either.
ranchers and whatnot.
You
But anyway,
said he was a dumb farmer.
Yeah.
From Utah.
Oh my God!
You said that they want to be away from people. They don't want anything to do with technology. Plus, they're too stupid to figure it out, even if they did.
The whole reason they moved out to
hard.
Skinwalker Ranch was because they did want to get away from people. And Jeremy should be able to back me up on this. That was like the whole reason they moved out
I
there.
can back them up. That's why. Yes.
I mean,
they moved from Oklahoma, or no, not Oklahoma.
In any case,
Arizona, I believe. No, New Mexico. No.
So, an hour
That
deep into the
place.
last episode, I'm sitting
Rhode
here.
Island.
I'm
Rhode
recording, or I'm editing our audio from last episode just
Yeah.
a couple hours ago, and I wrote this down. I said, in the last episode, Jeremy said that Terry Sherman believed that there was a black budget craft and gene editing being done in the basin, in regards to the big giant wolf or dog or whatever it was, and then the rectangle shaped craft that was hovering and stuff. And so I had to re-listen to that. I was like, wait, what? And so I went back and I was listening to Jeremy. He said that he had this wild idea that there was, this black budget craft being tested on in the basin, and also maybe gene editing to explain the black animal or the dog.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that is quite the theory from somebody that I'm being convinced right now would have no reason to carry a camera on him ever. Like, it was just like, what a wild theory from a simple cattle farmer or rancher or whatever it was. It's like, so that's the guy that you're going to try to tell me just, oh, he's so busy working all the time. Carrying around a wind-up camera is just ridiculous for this person. I was just like, because I found out about that stuff, I don't know, a year ago. Like, who knew about that sort of stuff, gene editing in the 90s, if they weren't really deep into that sort of stuff, And it's just like, but I would have taken.
I think you have to be deep into it to know about it.
I mean, in the 90s?
I mean,
Like,
you were
what was the
also
internet looking like in the 90s?
I mean, there's other
AOL.
things besides
Right.
the internet. There's movies and TV shows.
I mean,
You know,
which ones that were into gene editing and black budget?
you're gonna make me Google this.
But it was just like, it was just one of those things where, but on the other side of it, you know, we know from different episodes that generally speaking, say like Injured Cold, for example, right? Or not Injured Cold, but maybe Kecksburg UFO or something like that. But that people try to go around these mysterious crafts, and then their technology or whatever just starts just flubbing it. Just, you know, they can't get a good picture. They turn out white, right? Because they like radiate the film, all that sort of
Rendlesham.
stuff. Rendlesham, there you go. But the only counter I have to that one is that I'm watching this TV show, and some of their stuff is messed up, but they're filming the entire time. And you're going to tell me that, you know, this basic technology of winding to the next slide and then clicking it to, you know, expose the camera to light, that's the thing that's messing up, not all of this camera equipment over here. So
You know-
I'm just like, this is stupid, you know? So that's where I'm sitting with it, right?
That's a good point, because they had high frequency meters and all kinds of other
Right.
things that they were reading.
Things
right?
were
That
whacking
were
out,
going
right?
crazy,
Batteries are draining. Yeah.
but the TV cameras were going just fine.
I mean, it is something to think about, right?
That's a good point.
So it's
Yeah,
like, I don't know. Yeah.
much more
interesting.
goofy. Yeah,
But at the same time, you know, that is a pattern that we see often. To Wes's point, is that people try to take videos and pictures of these sorts of phenomenon,
Mhm.
and things tend to screw up. Now, whether that's a government thing and they're trying to just, you know, wipe all the evidence and stuff, we just want to expose ourselves to people, don't allow people to take pictures, whatever, you know, I don't know. Or it's an alien thing, right? But that seems to be a pattern that's very consistent across the board. So if that's the reasoning, then I mean, I have nothing else to do but to buy it, because it's not some weird outlier, right?
Right. So, Jeff, do you know any patents out there for targeted micro EMP bursts that they could use, or something where they're like, I'm going to stop that mouse, but the computer will work, but not the mouse?
Not off the top of my head, but I guarantee you there probably is. I mean, if you're thinking of it, there's probably a patent for it. Let's just be real.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Targeted jamming systems. Something.
Jammed.
Biological
Raspberry.
jamming,
I mean, we've had signal jammers
targeted
and
biological.
stuff like that for a long time.
Yeah, but signal jammers
I'm
are
sure-
they're not so condensed. You know, their
They're-
jamming range isn't so
They're not able to be
condensed where-
focused on one thing. Yeah,
Right.
Like that's what you're
So
trying to say.
Right.
It's
But,
not a
I mean-
beam, right?
I mean, I think it's possible that I think that it's possible for that to be a thing. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we can focus any other kind of signal. Why wouldn't we be able to focus something like that?
Hmm.
But I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like that lends to the, you know, what they were saying, you know, during this whole ordeal, that it felt like it was a intelligent, you know, thing, whatever it was that was out there. You know, it's aware of him and his family, and aware of what they're trying to do, and whatnot. But yeah.
I swear I've seen something like that in a movie before. That whole jamming.
Yeah, Spaceballs.
But that just
Raspberry.
sounds so much like a movie that it's
Jammed.
almost like
All right, guys.
too
We
good to be
are
true.
aiming at a 4-hour episode right now, so
Oh
for
my gosh.
Jeff's bedtime sake, let's move on and get started with the episode.
Bedtime. It's Friday.
Yeah, it's Friday.
Looks
Jeff.
like
Jeff's
trying to get signal.
Was taking a
Can
picture.
I just
so
add-
can, you know, do a little promoting.
I just want to add one little thing. I watched that movie Nope the other night, and it's heavily influenced by
Skinwalker Ranch. Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and it was a great movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was
You
pretty.
know,
Highly recommend.
let's put this out there, right? So this requires no research. This requires watching a movie. If listeners of the Paranormal Network or of our audio version of the podcast, in case you don't know, anybody listening on the Paranormal Network, we do have an audio-only version of the podcast where you can listen to over 100 episodes of stuff that wasn't on the Paranormal Network. There's tons of content for you to jump on. If you want to hear a review of Nope and hear us talk about that movie, it was really, really good, and it falls right into our wheelhouse. Let us know. Okay, head on over to the Infinite Rabbit Hole Facebook group or hit us up at infiniterabbithole@gmail.com. Let us know, yay or nay. Do you want to hear us do a review on Nope? Warning, spoiler alert. Okay, but let's move on because Jeff.
We've got 4 hours to cover.
Well, we have 13 pages. So, hey, travelers. Let us take this opportunity to thank everyone for watching the Infinite Rabbit Hole.
If you enjoy our shows, please subscribe to our channel right now.
And click on the bell so you can be notified every time a new video goes up.
Now, back to the Infinite Rabbit Hole.
The Mogul and the Rancher. Robert Bigelow was a billionaire from Las Vegas, Nevada, who made his fortune as the owner of the Budget Suites hotel chain before growing his empire with the establishment of Bigelow Aerospace, a company aiming at the future fortune to be made with space tourism and leisure. Mr. Bigelow's interest didn't end at these two endeavors. A year before the Sherman Ranch stories hit the news, Bigelow had founded NIDS, the National Institute for the Discovery of Science. I fucked that up. The National Institute. Totally fucked that up. The National Institute for Discovery Science, which focused on many parapsychological, and paranormal topics such as the continuation of consciousness after death, UFOs, and many others. As a major win for this NIDS team, Mr. Bigelow purchased the Sherman Ranch in September of 1996, and one of his first additions he made to the NIDS team was hiring Terry Sherman himself as a farmhand and researcher of the ranch that he loved so much. Terry Sherman was extremely happy to be given the opportunity to not let the ranch get the last laugh and was assigned to investigate a string of cattle mutilations on the ranch. It was now ranch hand Terry Sherman's belief that whatever was to blame for all the strange phenomenon on Skinwalker Ranch, skipping that because whatever I wrote here doesn't make sense. He stated his beliefs to the NIDS team on multiple occasions and recommended that if the team wanted to get the best results, that more primitive techniques would be the best way to see the phenomenon. This is a little nod to the conversation that we had earlier in this episode. His recommendations included the building of more observation decks spread out throughout the ranch and closed-circuit landlines built in for communication purposes. Terry claimed that whatever was behind all the action here is seemed to not like modern technology, and that when Terry attempted to introduce cameras and other recording equipment to his arsenal, the phenomenon seemed to slow down. Of course, the NIDS team did not listen to these recommendations and soon added CCTV cameras with 24-hour live recording capabilities to every nook and cranny of the ranch. And, as Terry predicted, the phenomenon went dormant for many months. Now, before you say, well, that's because there was nothing there. Know that before the introduction of all this technology, many members of the NIDS team claimed to have had various experiences with the unknown on the ranch in the early days of the investigation. Almost a year later, this string of bad luck finally ended. Terry Sherman was on watch when 3 of the cameras went offline. Terry was surprised to find out that the 3 cameras in question had all the cables and wires ripped from the back of them. The cameras were all placed on 15-foot wooden poles and would be nearly impossible for any known creature to do such a feat. But the strangeness really takes off when one of the surviving cameras on the property successfully records all 3 red recording lights from the damaged cameras going out simultaneously at 8:30 that morning. So, now we have 3 cameras that were placed 15 feet on top of a wooden pole, all going out at exactly the same time. All 3 had suffered the same damage, which was caused by the wires and cables being pulled out, not gnawed, not sliced, or properly removed. No, They were pulled out. One cable even had the connector still attached to it. But the cameras only were able to show the recording lights going out. So whatever did this wasn't able to be seen by the camera. Wes has something to say. Go ahead, Wes.
Sorry, I thought it was at 8:30 at night because I remember them specifically saying that there was just enough light out still at that time to be able to see if anyone had approached that camera.
See, this
The
is
one
why
that
I
it
didn't.
was filmed.
This is why I gave you shit for reading the book. What an asshole. No, okay, so I'm not exactly sure what the Hunt for Skinwalker book said, but I do have multiple sources, as I have
They
right
said
here.
it was at evening time. It was
So
8:30
I
at
have
night.
3 other books and a couple documentaries that said morning. So I went with the morning just because more sources said morning. If Hunt for the Skinwalker said night, I know that's more probably reputable source. But I went with the one that was more common.
So there were cameras.
There were
Despite all that
cameras
crap.
when NIDS got
the
there.
NIDS team got there.
Mhm.
Once
But
people
yes,
who know how to do that stuff.
as I dove into the NIDS team, it became apparent that yes, Terry Sherman did attempt to have cameras on the property during his stay at points. There were no specific stories about him and cameras that I came across, but when we started diving into the NIDS team in retrograde, we find out that yes, he did attempt to have cameras.
In the book, they actually don't go into that until like towards the end. Like they talk about all his encounters and stuff, all the things that he experienced with his, him by himself, with his kids and with his wife and whatnot. And they don't really mention it like at all. And then towards the end, they're like, oh, by the way, basically he had tried on multiple occasions, like, or I think the word they used was many occasions that he tried, different things to try to, catch their attention. He even at one point had like crawled, through the field on the ground, like laying prone, like slowly, like taking an hour or so to get to a vantage point, where
You're just
certain
gonna tell
phenomena
all the
had been
stories?
happening.
You can tell them all. You can
Man,
tell them all. This
this
is why I
this
said.
is
This is why I gave you shit.
this
This is exactly
was-
why I did this, Wes.
this happened before NIDS got there. What are you talking about?
All this is doing right now is keeping Wes and I from going at it again, just arguing about nothing, because clearly we would be arguing about something that was something that took place. It would just be a wasted conversation. So now we can argue about things that we don't know about, like what was his hair color,
Yeah,
Oh my
or
God.
electric vehicles and warranties.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yes.
So dumb.
Yes.
Anyways,
Yes.
Kenzar
anyways, what I told you that I'm making a clarification. I found information that
Yeah.
goes with what you were saying, and I admit it. That's what he
Yeah, no.
tried. Like I'm not opposed to changing my opinion or what I thought happened if I come across something telling me, oh, this is what happened. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, like,
Same.
that's no problem for me. All right.
Same.
Anyways,
So what about this? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
you know, Jeremy interrupted me when I was saying it, but he, during the times that he tried to get video evidence or pictures or whatever, this was before NIDS even got there. So I'm not trying to like spoil nothing, because I thought we were discussing what the NIDS team, during their time there specifically, but he literally tried everything he could think of, at least, to like pull one over on the phenomenon. Like he said in the book, they were like, if he like, crunched a leaf or something, he would literally lay there still, not moving, for like an hour, just to make sure that, whatever's out there wasn't onto him trying to sneak up on it and whatnot. But like he went to great lengths to try to catch this stuff, but it still wasn't enough.
It seems like I understand the caution, right? But at the same time, they couldn't have been that sensitive. I mean, it was happening on a cattle farm, so you're hearing, animal noises, animals. I don't know what cows sleep schedules are, right? But I don't
I think
know. It just
I,
I understand that there would be like this like sense of like I really want to figure this out, you know, and I'm being really cautious and like that army crawling across the ground and stuff, but crunching on a leaf and then sitting there and laying prone and waiting, it's just like
I mean,
it's
I'm
like
not
with the
gonna.
cows in the background,
I don't know.
moo moo, and he's sitting
I
there just
mean,
laying on the ground because he like
I mean,
disturbed a blade of grass.
he wasn't necessarily right where the cows are at or the cattle and whatnot was at, you know. But also at the same time, no one's ever experienced anything like this, you know. Like
Yeah, yeah.
this is why this place is considered one of the UFO hotspots in the hottest hotspots in the world, you know. But he had no idea what he was dealing with. You know, he just wanted to try to prove to people, I guess, to like, I this is what's happening. This is actually happening, and I want it to stop. That was his biggest thing. He's like, I don't care what it is. I just want it to stop. But anyways, back
The
to Jeremy.
the question that I have in regards to this these wires being ripped out of the cameras. We're talking about like the wires being pulled out of the connectors.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Okay, so were there any was there any droop in the wires so that maybe an animal, like a really big heavy animal, could have walked
so
across it and yanked them
here's the
out,
thing.
you know? Like
Here's
how
the
does that
thing.
work out?
Listen, one of the cameras caught all three of the red recording lights going out at the exact same time.
Right.
So
That's the
whatever
part I
happened,
work on.
I mean, if one of them happens, yeah, and you get like a really fat squirrel that hops on some wires, and it's like, oh shit, this fat ass squirrel pulled out the wires. It's not going to happen all three at the same time.
I'm so dumb. I'm sitting here thinking about like
Just
as if
one
all the
camera.
cameras were just sitting in a row right next to each other. or maybe if they were like all on a pole, right, and they're all facing different
Yeah.
directions, but they're all mounted on this pole, right, and then
They were
it
separate
all
poles,
comes out
Jake.
together,
Yes.
right?
Are you
It's
are you gonna
3 cameras.
are you gonna bring up the tape on the cameras?
No. I thought of that as sort of a small detail, and I just kind of left it out.
Remember we
Well,
learned about small details, Jeremy?
yeah, I mean, I think it's pertinent because it went to show they, at least in Hunt for the Skinwalker, they what's his name? Calm. Oh, I already forgot.
Colm
Anyway,
Kelleher.
yeah. He talked about, he specifically mentioned the tape saying that the wires going into the camera from the pole, whatever, was meticulously wrapped with tape. That was a total pain to get on, and it would have been a total pain to get off, and like it wouldn't have been quick and easy by any
Mhm.
means.
But
And
here's the thing. The reason why I left that off is because, I mean, Wes, you probably know a little bit, but Jake and I, we worked, him, avionics, and me, electrical wiring in aircraft. Tape is used for a couple different things: insulation, for
yeah,
the
Covering up mistakes.
reduction. That's the big one, right? The reducing of chafing. Um,
yeah.
it's not really like why would you use it? There's so many other techniques that would have been used better, because you're dealing with something that's outside, it's external, and you have elements. So why would tape be used on an electrical component outside? You
to
would
help
use
protect it. I mean,
no,
it's something. It's better than nothing.
no
But that's
BS.
how they described it.
You would
I'm
use a
just
conduit is what you would use if you're trying to protect something, which they use. They use PVC is what they
well,
said, right? But the thing is if they're trying to, like, they said that they taped it with really good tape to the pole, right?
mhm.
But first rainstorm, that shit's gone, dude. It doesn't matter what kind of tape you use. I mean,
I mean,
unless you're
but
using
it was
Gorilla
there
Tape.
for months though, and never had an issue.
Oh, it
Like
doesn't
you said,
rain. It
they
doesn't
use
rain very often.
PVC. They use PVC as conduit, and the cables inside the PVC were also wrapped. And another detail was that the PVC was like, when they went to inspect the cameras, it was just like broken and hanging off, as if something possibly had hit it. But how
I'm
does
gonna be
something on all three get hit and broken at the same time?
I just I looked at it from an electrician's point of view, man, and I just said this is bogus. I just didn't.
I mean,
fucking
to
mind.
me, it doesn't sound bogus. I've got plenty of experience with all that as well.
I said
But
50-50 with this because I know a couple electricians who go out of their way to do really nice tape jobs on certain things just because
Is it inside or outside, Kenzar?
it depends on the job.
If I have
Outside they
if I
do
pay an
count.
electrician,
Outside,
if I pay an electrician and they tape something outside, I'm firing them.
that's dumb. That's dumb. You need to be
Uh,
you should be using conduit outside because that just makes
mean,
sense. But
Conduit or shrink?
it-
You have to use one. You can use
well,
shrink.
I think
Conduit.
we're missing the whole point of why I brought it
Well,
up.
that's-
Though,
Okay,
is the fact that all 3 cameras had it and also had the PVC conduit around it, and the tape was completely gone and the conduit was broken on all 3. So it's one thing to say one camera it was broken, ripped out. Okay, maybe a big ass bird or owl just like rammed it mid-flight. I don't know, tore it out.
Okay.
Okay, one thing, but 3 cameras at the same time, that's a whole nother thing.
Okay, so I want to just quickly go over something, though. Sorry, Jake. Just
You're
I want to
fine.
make
You're
sure
fine.
of
Go
something
for it.
here.
But I'm
You
next.
said that there was a few months of nothing before this all happened, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So who's to say somebody on this NIDS team said, "I'm bored. Let's rig something up and just."
well, because the NIDS team was in Las Vegas. That's where
Oh, okay. Well,
their headquarters
Yeah,
was,
they weren't even
who's
there.
to say somebody else wasn't
and it could have been Terry.
involved and said, exactly. Terry
But
said,
it was caught
"I'm
on
bored
video.
and I want something," right?
It was right, and Jake, go.
Okay. So these, I don't know why you would tape up a perfectly good
Can
cable
you put your hand down?
unless they
Thank you.
were really bad cables that were really well used, and the shielding, whatever the shielding was, probably rubber, was broken. So they taped it up with duct tape, really good, strong tape to withstand the elements. So, I mean, months of it sitting in the weather, whether that's the sun or rain or whatever, just the environment in general. And then maybe it's not as sticky, and then something, now there's 3 of them, so that's different, right? That's the outlier. But here's the connector, and here's the cable coming out of the connector like this, but it's broken somewhere around here. So they tape it, and then this tape is suddenly not sticky and stuff, and then something pulls it, and then the only thing that's pulling on is no longer the shielding, right? The thick rubber that covers up wires for a cable. It's just the wires going into the connector, which are not very strong. The pins alone, they don't provide that much strength to keep the wires in there. That's why everything is coated in rubber. But something pulls it, and then the wires just rip out of the connector, and the connector's still there because they did a poor tape job versus just covering it with more heat shrink and then
A
sealing
lot
it up.
of AV connectors are those quarter turns. You put them in, you twist them, and they got the 2 little pins with the grooves, and you just turn and twist. That's not going to be easily disconnected. Some of those are pretty tough. But I'm going to be honest with you. I think we completely wasted about 5 minutes of this episode talking about tape and conduit.
20 minutes, easy, yeah.
Well, I think it's wasted because you guys are focusing on the tape for the wrong reasons. But anyways,
they taped it because they're a bunch of janky electricians.
It doesn't matter why
they're
scientists.
They taped they're not electricians.
It doesn't matter why they taped it. It's just the fact that they said that they did, and that it would have been a pain in the ass to get off.
You know what,
that
though?
It was inside the conduit, and all 3 cameras, it was gone. It's one thing if it was shitty tape job, whatever. Sure, one of them it can come off, absolutely.
Anyways,
but 3. That's why I brought it up.
Jake made a good point. They are not electricians; they're scientists. So, did they use tape? Yeah, probably. But
maybe
to save Jeff, because he is bored and hasn't said a word in 20 minutes, we have to move on.
Where's your background? Where's all your stuff?
What are you talking about?
Your stuff, your Sphinx and all that crap behind you.
Oh, I put it all in the bathroom. My bathroom is like an Egyptian spa now, so all the Egyptian stuff's in there.
You hear that, ladies?
Yeah, come over, ladies. I got the Egyptian spa.
Come
you know,
over and you can have Ra
sex and
staring
light.
at you while you undress.
Super nice. I got a nice walk-in shower with a removable head on it. I get in there. I feel like I'm in an oasis. Good.
All right.
Yes,
And
let's carry on. We still got, what, 12 and a half pages left?
yep, we're 40 minutes in.
Yep.
We went through the first part.
All right.
We're gonna have to cut this into 4 episodes. This is gonna suck. Anyways, for those that are watching or listening, if you hear me say, "Hey, put your hand down," like I said to Jake, it's because the program that we're using, we hit a little button that says, "Hey, I want to talk," and they constantly hop
They
up and
don't
down
care.
their image. I'm just trying to explain it so
They
that
don't care. Nobody cares. Like, nobody, what?
I'm just whatever. Anyways, whatever. Moving on.
Shut up, Jeremy, and read.
Hopefully I can actually read. We'll see. As you can see, I did not proofread this one. Okay,
National
so
Institute of Discovery and Science Research Institute.
yes, that's it. Who was NIDS? The National Institute for Discovery Science was a team of scientists created by Robert Bigelow, set to research the myriad of his paranormal and supernatural interests. One thing to understand about this team is that they knew that they were tasked to research a place believed to be an epicenter of a plethora of different supernatural activities. But they always approached the matter in a very professional and scientifically acceptable manner. The team consistently used the scientific method throughout their research, as well as never settling for the easy answer to the events that would unfold in their time on the ranch. All of the NIDS team's members suffered serious hits to their professional lives due to their time investigating Skinwalker Ranch, many of whom were very serious researchers in other scientific topics, such as one of the authors of Hunt for the Skinwalker, Colm Kelleher, who is a PhD in biochemistry with a concentration in cell and molecular biology. In the fall of 1996, the NIDS team set up their electronic devices around the ranch, and whatever was behind all the strangeness of Skinwalker Ranch was now on the opposite side of the game of cat and mouse. Whereas, when the ranch was owned by the Shermans, the ranch was in charge. But now that the science and technology stepped into the ring, the ranch was the one being hunted. The NIDS team made history as being the biggest operation that included extremely valued professionals in various fields coming together to investigate and study a paranormal phenomenon. Many of these members attempted to remain anonymous. NIDS began the investigation of Skinwalker Ranch with 3 researchers on the property: a physician, a veterinarian, and Colm Kelleher, the microbiologist. The team moved into a research trailer that Bigelow had paid to have put on the property and began their studies with setting up recording devices for magnetic, electromagnetic, and visible ultraviolet spectrum readers. Other minor equipment that was first used on the ranch were night vision binoculars, video cameras with night vision, radio frequency analyzers, and microwave detectors. Soon after research began, the NIDS team grew by a few more members. Enough people were now investigating the property to form 2 teams for nightly research expeditions. These teams consisted of one of the original researchers, scientists, and 1 or 2 investigators. The goal of these teams was to gather as much evidence of paranormal or supernatural activity with the tools listed before as they could, so that the NIDS 15-member Science Advisory Board, which was external to the field researchers, could dissect the evidence and determine new investigative strategies and equipment that could be useful for the field team. On September 16th, 1996 at 0130, one of the members witnessed a light over a row of cottonwood trees just outside the window of the research trailer. The light was so bright that at first the collective thought was that it was a flare floating over the tree line. The team watched as the light seemed to float downward into the trees, and all of a sudden the light shot back up to the treetops. Photos and video that captures the 10 minutes of the team's first collective anomaly seem to only show a distant light that did not look abnormal at all, other than the unnatural movements. But to the naked eye, the bright bluish tinge and blinding illumination was something special to every member. This was important to the investigation and set the excitement to extremely high levels, seemingly right off the bat. The team had witnessed its first unidentified flying object. Although the team agreed that this meager light barely quantified something supernatural, the team began to feel excited and more accepting of Terry Sherman's stories. But there was still a lot of work to be done. All right.
Was it in the last episode that I had said that I don't put a lot of weight into orbs, and we started talking about that
Mhm.
one? What was that place that you said that the observation deck, people can go and look at all the orbs and stuff? Because I looked that up.
Shit. Well, I don't remember which one I said, but I know there's Marfa. I think it was
That
Marfa.
one, Marfa. So I had looked that up, and apparently there was a team of scientists that went to go and explore what's going on with that Marfa area, and they determined that all of those orbs that people see were headlights being reflected from the
Mhm.
road as the cars passed by in the distance.
Except for the closest highway was extremely far away, and they said that the reflection actually beams due to the heat rising off the ground. You know how it gets
Swamp gas, yeah.
yeah. Well, no. So like if you're looking at a hot road, you can see like the heat waves coming off the ground. They said that has some deal to do
It's a
with it too.
mirage.
It's
Yeah, it's
mirage. Looks like an
like
oil
that.
spill.
And they said somehow that was reflecting the lights. But come on, man. That is bullshit.
Well, I mean, but they're scientists. Anyway, in
They
this
also use
circumstance,
tape on cameras external to
look, they're
any.
not certified electricians, right? They're scientists. Just because they have a PhD in biology doesn't mean they can go wire up a house. They're not waived certification because they're super smart in some areas. But anyway, I'm curious if this circumstance would have an explanation similar to that, like a reflection off of, I don't know, someone's watch or something like that. If there's fog or something, large giant areas that have a lot of fields and stuff, generally there's a lot of fog that kicks up in the evenings because of the temperature of the ground versus the temperature of the air. If there's a red light or whatever being reflected off of someone's watch, and they're just standing there like looking at this thing, and they just they're just wiggling their wrists, and they don't realize it, like when you're in your car and
Mhm.
the sunlight beams off your wristwatch and it's just dancing around the car. I wonder if there would be something that would have an explanation like this, or the lens of a camera, right? It's reflecting off of the lens and going towards where they're pointing at, which would be following this light.
I
And
mean,
just a
could it?
curiosity for me.
Could it? Yeah. I mean, I guess. Yeah.
Because that's a super simple explanation, but still it could be something that would be looked over, or because it's so simple, right? It'd be like, wow, we all saw this thing, but I don't know. It could be passed over and just not thought about as maybe this is a reflection of something, because a lot of cameras show red lights when they're recording, right? So if a red light is near another spot and it's being reflected out and it's hitting a backdrop of fog, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Possibly. I mean,
I'm a researcher.
Occam's razor, right? Possibly could happen. I mean, it sounds like a pretty simple explanation. Just to kind of give everyone a heads up, Jeff is having a problem right now. He is frozen, or he says that all of us are frozen on his end, and that he can't hear anything at all. So I don't know what's going on. He just messaged the group. Welcome back to another sad attempt at Infinite Rabbit Hole. All right, here we go. Cattle mutilations became a fairly common occurrence on the ranch after Bigelow and the NIDS team took over the property. The first such incidents happened to two members of the herd within feet of each other. The animals were found shoved under the fence of the property and served as the event that caused Mr. Bigelow to install a ton of security cameras all around the property, as well as fenced-in observation decks for researchers to conduct stakeouts and watch the happenings of the ranch live. As if the unknown entities of the area knew that they were now under surveillance, all activities stalled until one day in January of 1997, just after a massive snowstorm had taken place. Terry had noticed that a couple of calves near the observation deck had strange marks around their eyes and ears. The team called in a local veterinarian who insisted that he had never seen anything like the marks that were on the young calves. But when another veterinarian, a more senior veterinarian, had come to the property for a second opinion, he had said that the injuries were caused by a wildcat or coyote. With the lack of tracks in the snow from either a feline or a canine intruder, the team concluded that this was most likely not the answer. This small event would be the propulsion of the strangeness of the area, and it needed. This small event would be the propulsion the strangeness of the area needed to return in full force. In one particular event that involved the mutilation of one of Terry's calves on the property, a calf was ripped apart in broad daylight, just a few feet away from Terry and a few other researchers. The body seemed to have been ripped right open, and one leg removed from the rest. Oh, and all the legs removed from the rest of the body with ease. Along with these gruesome injuries, the calf also had all of its organs removed, one ear missing, and like many other mutilation cases, it was completely drained of its blood. And as if this couldn't get any weirder, once the NIDS team placed flesh from the removed ear under a microscope, it was clear that they had what had done this. Jeez, I need to proofread this stuff. Sorry, guys. And as if this couldn't get any weirder, once the NIDS team placed the flesh from the removed ear under a microscope, it was clear that what had done this had done so with precision only capable of being made by a seasoned surgeon with a steady hand and a scalpel.
Question.
Yeah.
It was ripped apart right in front of him, so he saw it being ripped apart?
No. So we get into it. We dive a little bit deeper into this right away. So if you want, I can jump right into the next section. This was more of an introduction to the story of the calf, and the very next section dives much deeper into the calf story.
No, because I have another question real quick.
What's up?
So they found that these calves, the original ones, had they claimed that it was from a feline or canine intruder, but they said probably not because there was no tracks, but this was just after a massive snowstorm. So
Right.
at what point during the storm were they attacked where these researchers could claim that, well, that's not the case because there's no tracks after a massive snowstorm? I find that one hard to believe. This other one is very strange, but that first one is like, yeah, okay. Calves are an easy target.
I get it.
The sick, the calves, all right, those are the ones that get attacked by stuff.
Shit, it could have been taken by a Thunderbird.
I think the whole thing with the footprints is that they were able to see the calf footprints in the snow, but there was no other footprints around it, indicating a predator of some sort had come and attacked it.
Good point.
I think that's that in the, when I listened to the book, that was how they mentioned it. It was obvious if the calf's footprints are there, there should be a predator's footprints as well, but there wasn't, and that's why it was
were the
reported
calves
as another
dead
incident.
or were they still alive?
Well, the one that was split in half that Jeremy's talking about was just one.
Well, not that one. I mean the other two.
The other two were alive.
Okay, well, in that circumstance,
under the fence, or
no, the other two that had the ears and like the face and the neck, like that sort of damage and stuff. If there was no footprints around them, but they were still alive walking around, then that makes perfect sense, right? Predators could have came and went, and this cow's obviously making footprints because it's still alive and it's moving around and stuff. But the other one, I agree, very strange.
Was anything missing?
The anus.
Well, if you don't mind me stepping in, Jeremy, when I read the book, I thought there was just the one leg that was actually like detached from the calf, and it was like placed.
You're right.
It seemed like it was placed.
I think I was mixing up two stories. I think I was mixing up two stories there. I did not proofread this very well, but not gonna lie, I had a lot going on this week.
Essentially, ripped in half at the rib cage. All the organs, entire carcass was pretty much empty. Another thing was no blood on the ground, which should have been They're
Can I
in
read this next
buckets.
section real quick?
Yeah. I mean,
Thanks. I'm sorry. I'm the one that prepared this, but not very well.
We didn't proofread it, right?
Yeah, not very well.
Amateur.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. So on March 10th, 1997, while acting as a member of the NIDS team, Colm Kelleher received a phone call from Terry Sherman. Terry's voice was frantic as he told Kelleher about what happened with his new prized Angus calf. On February 21st, Terry decided to move his cattle from his personal ranch back to Skinwalker Ranch. A week and a half later, one of his newly born Black Angus calves would be dismembered in broad daylight, leading him to contact the NIDS team for an impromptu investigation. 5 hours after Terry called Colm Kelleher, a team of 3 investigators were standing over the body of the calf, or what was left of it at least. As the team stood over the body of the calf that weighed 84 pounds just 2 days ago, images of what could have possibly taken place ran through everyone's head. The dismembered corpse laid on its back with the chest cavity splayed open, with the points of the ribs reaching towards the sky. All 4 limbs were found feet and one even yards away. All of its internal organs were gone, and any sign of blood was nowhere to be found. Not a single drop was found on the grass, snow, or hide. Terry's story consisted of him tagging the animal shortly before finding it in the shape it was in when the team got there. He claimed to have walked a few hundred yards in another direction to conduct another chore that had to be done, when his dog began to snarl in the direction of the calf and the other cattle. Just after that, the blue heeler took off in the opposite direction and was still not back 6 hours later as Terry was telling the team his story. In fact, this dog would never be seen again. As Terry was finishing up how he eventually walked back to the area the dog was alarming to, the veterinarian that was a part of the NIDS investigation team pointed out that one of the ears of the dead calf was sliced off with a very clean cut, as if it were made with a scalpel. The ear that had once been pierced with a yellow identification tag had now been gone and seemed to be the only part of the animal actually missing other than its organs and blood. As night fell, the 3-man NIDS team and Terry set out to try to find more clues as to what may have happened. As they passed the kennel of dogs that the property kept for security and alarm purposes, the dogs stayed silent. An eerie event, as the dogs were always loud when the team was around, but since they had arrived, the dogs just stayed in the kennel, not making a peep. After a failed night search for any clues, the team retired for the night. The entire day of the 11th and the daylight hours of the 12th gave up no details about the mystery of what actually happened to the calf. But in the late hours of the 12th, the team and the rejuvenated dogs were in the observation trailer when all 3 of the remaining dogs began barking and howling. The team jumped up with Terry and Kelleher jumping in Terry's farm truck with a powerful spotlight on its driver's side. The entire herd seemed to be in the northeastern section of the ranch, and when the duo began searching the fence line, they crossed the beam of light across a shadowy figure that looked like a cow for a brief second in the tree line near the southeastern corner. Terry turned towards the animal and sped quickly towards where the men thought they had saw it. Just as the truck straightened out, both men spotted 2 orbs hanging in the tree line, just over where they thought they saw a lone cow. But as they got closer, they realized that these orbs were not orbs. They were the eye shine of a gigantic black creature in the tree about 20 feet off the ground. Terry stopped the truck with the driver's side window facing the creature, reached behind his seat, grabbed his rifle, and very quickly fired at the creature. The light shining from the eyes disappeared, and Terry thought he had killed the damn thing once and for all. Quote, "I wasn't going to let that son of a bitch get another one of my animals," Terry yelled. Terry put the truck in drive and stopped about 40 feet away from the tree that the creature was sitting in. The 2 men jumped out and split up. Not long after, Colm Kelleher heard the quick 1-2 reports from Terry's rifle as he yelled, "I got him!" When Colm caught up with Terry, there was no animal, just a pissed off and confused Terry Sherman, who claimed to have hit the creature point blank from 40 feet away. Terry was upset and confused as to how it could have gotten away after being so close to it. Quote, "Sucker must have weighed 400 pounds," Terry would tell Colm. The two men split up to search once more at the location of the beast's last sighting. Colm held onto a camera, hoping to get footage of whatever the animal may be, or at least a footprint. And just as he was ready to give up, there it was, a large 6-inch circular footprint. The footprint was strange, as it was nothing like anything any of the four men had ever seen. It had two long finger-like appendages coming out of the back of it as if it were from an inverted bird of prey foot. And the top looked faintly canine. The team only found one other print 20 feet away before they gave up for the night, so the team called it. The only evidence that this ever happened are some photos from the investigation and a videotape. There was never a casting made of either footprint. When it was all said and done, Terry actually claimed that there were two animals that night, one in the tree that he fired one round into, and one on the ground that they had originally spotted, and Terry would eventually hit twice with his rifle from 40 feet away. He said that if he were to say that the creatures looked like any animal he knows of, he would compare them to a very, very large wolf, but one that can walk on two legs, sort of like a werewolf. With the lack of physical evidence, the NIDS team decided that although they had seen something and the footprints were documented on video, this encounter failed to meet their requirements for proof of anything paranormal or supernatural. Due to the lack of physical evidence, i.e. blood, a body, or video of the animal itself, this would not be an event that would be written about in any peer-reviewed article created by the NIDS team for the investigations in the Skinwalker Ranch.
I mean, such an incredible investigation going on, and they're not going to take a cast of the footprint. I mean, that's just amateur hour,
Mm-hmm.
right?
agree.
They have that much stuff going on where they have a whole team of researchers over there, various scientific degrees, all trying to study this thing. And then suddenly there's this quote, must have been 400-pound animal that he shoots at. It leaves this crazy looking footprint that's different than anything anyone has ever seen before, but somehow they're not going to take a cast of it. And then also he's going to go back and start saying, well, there was another one too, and all sorts of stuff. This is where they tend to lose me. Like, the story is interesting in itself until, something really crucial is left out, or the person or people that are involved then start adding extra stuff that wasn't originally in the report. It's like, okay, well, either something happened and then you're just embellishing it and flubbing it and making it, adding fluff to it like an eval, or nothing happened and you're just trying to make content because this will be a really cool story one day.
I don't disagree. I think that this was a very interesting story, and I lost a lot of respect for the NIDS team because of this. But one thing stood out to me, right? So you had Terry and Colm who had this encounter with this creature or creatures, but the whole 4-person team, including Terry himself, 3 from NIDS, 1 Terry, who saw these prints. Now, why they didn't take a cast, I don't know, because we're about to talk about another story where they did in fact take a cast of something. No idea. That's a huge red flag right there. Why didn't you take a cast?
That's kind of what I got stuck on too, because I can understand maybe not having a tracker there to help track this animal, but you've also got 3 scientists sitting there and not one of them thought, hey, we need to take a casting, we need to document this footprint. Like,
especially because one of them's a PhD biologist and this is a print he's
Yeah.
never seen in his life. It's just like, nah, just leave it.
What?
Leave it to get destroyed by the ground.
Yeah, that makes no sense to me whatsoever.
The other thing, I have a question, kind of a gross question, but hopefully, I don't know if combined skills right here, if someone will be able to answer it for me. The idea of something being found dead and no blood being in its body, right? So I know that as soon as you're dead, your heart stops beating, your blood stops circulating inside your body, right? Or for an animal or whatever it is. But at what point does it start to coagulate and clot to where then you could cut an animal open and no blood would come out of it? Is it a couple hours, right? Because saying that there's no blood doesn't necessarily mean that it was drained of its blood. It could just be that it was, ripped apart or cut apart sometime after its death, because that blood that is no longer pumping is now, congealed, right? So it wouldn't be leaking out like there was a heart pumping with pressure behind it, like a hydraulic system. When you cut a line and it starts spraying out, that's what happens when you get an injury, right? Because there's pressure inside your veins. But when that stops and everything slows down and it starts to coagulate, you could just as easily say, well, there's no blood here, but it could be, doesn't necessarily mean that the animal died and then was immediately cut apart. It just means that sometime afterwards, right, that animal then was cut, or things were removed from it from a surgical perspective, all these sorts of things. But I don't know what that time frame is or what that looks like. So that I never really get hung up on that whole like, oh, there was no blood on the ground. It's like, okay, so the animal could have died of natural causes, been left there for a day before it had a time to start bloating, and then hacked apart and stuff. And would there be any blood on the ground?
But did Jeremy not say that Terry went and tagged the calf not too long beforehand, the same day? So
I don't know. I got hung up
like
on the footprint. Like I had this, and then I was just
did you
like,
say
"Oh,
that,
this is
Jeremy?
stupid."
Or am I making things up?
Yeah, so no, it was about, I think it was about 45 minutes where he had his eyes off
Yeah,
the calf.
it
So,
wasn't
So
long.
yeah, there's
Okay.
no way that the blood would have coagulated that quickly. I don't think that's, unless you're trying to freeze the animal, which isn't the case here either. I don't know.
Well,
As
was
you
it
were
country
asking your
outside?
question, I was just thinking of the show Dexter. one of the serial killers in this show
Yeah.
literally drained the blood out of their victims, and that, like, as you were asking that question, that's all I was thinking.
I don't think that there's any reason to think that there's not some form of like interdimensional portal or beings that are somehow just not of this dimension or realm, and they must be coming in here, and maybe they have the ability to pause time in a weird kind of way, right? So 45 minutes goes by, but it was long enough for them to sit there and surgically remove the organs from this calf without spilling any blood, right? The whole thing, and then go back through their portal into their own dimension. Maybe they've been here forever and they've just been doing this kind of thing forever. They just feed on organs of calves and cows.
And
anuses.
anuses. There you go. Yes. Now I'll buy it. Now I'll buy it.
Wes, did I forget anything?
I thought that he was working like 100 yards away at the time too, when he didn't have his eyes on it.
Yeah, I did
if I'm not
mention
mistaken.
it was a couple 100 yards. What did I say?
He was near enough that if something was attacking it, he would have known because he would have heard it, like
Yeah.
just actively attacking him.
Because he had walked Terry, or I'm sorry, Terry had walked Calm out to where he was when his dogs alerted to something over in the direction of the cows, and I believe it was quite a distance. It was multiple hundred yards.
I mean, your sources probably said that. In Hunt for a Skinwalker, I'm pretty sure they specifically said 100 yards. But either way, I mean, you can be pretty far away from an animal that is upset, and you're going to hear it. You know, like you could be multiple football fields away and hear that. But also, the one leg that was torn off, at least in Hunt for a Skinwalker, they specifically said that like where it had separated from the calf, there was multiple ligaments and whatnot that, like, they said that the force required to just rip that off would have been greater than, the majority of predators that are even in that area could apply. So
they did dive into that, and they specifically got a little bit into the anatomy of the socket that in which the hip would have been attached to. So I want to say it was in Hunt for the Skinwalker where it said all 4 of them, but I could definitely be wrong.
Is it also possible that this guy is being, he's being visited, and because of these visitations, there's time dilation and all kinds of other things. So maybe it wasn't 45 minutes. Maybe he was experiencing something for, could have been 2 days, right? For all we know. And
that could absolutely be a fucking good possibility. Is that I mean, missing time is something that has been documented, or not documented, but at least reported to happen around the Uinta Basin. Not necessarily on Skinwalker Ranch, but like external to the ranch. The residents of the area and the natives have reported missing time.
Yeah. I've had 3 hours of missing time before. It's wild.
If you're out in your ranch, in the woods at the tree line in a field somewhere, and like an hour or 2 slips by, like you wouldn't even notice,
Well, for me, from how they describe Terry, he's when it comes to raising cattle and doing this is what he loves. It's been in his family. He's very, very good at it. His cattle is prized for how good they are, and he prides himself on never losing more than 1% of his herd ever each year from predators and whatnot. And he's very what you say street smart when it comes to working on a ranch and whatnot, working with these kind of animals and protecting them and whatnot.
That would be ranch smart.
Ranch smart. Okay, whatever. Ranch smart. He's very ranch
Jeremy,
smart.
you're such a butthole.
I'm just kidding.
And
I'm not.
Like, it seems like I feel like he would be the type of person that would notice if all of a sudden an hour had slipped by. I don't know, because he's literally from sun up to sundown. He's doing something. He's got a schedule of things he's doing and whatnot. And I don't know, for a time to slip by for just him. I mean, for me, it's like, wouldn't the cattle move in that time period if for whatever reason time froze for him? But
unless they were victims of it too, they could be victims of the same
right.
thing.
Well, at the moment that the cattle was killed, it could have been the start of this experience for him. 2 or 3 hours could have gone by. To him, it's 45 minutes. And then by then, these beings could have been doing more than just experimenting or interacting with him, but also the cattle and whatever else, foraging for fucking mushrooms or something. I don't know.
What if it was more like you have, we've talked about this could be beings from another universe, dimension. Let me finish what I'm saying real quick while I have it in my mind. What if instead of freezing time in our reality, they're reaching in, grabbing this, pulling it to theirs, and then they can take whatever time they want, and then when they're done doing whatever the hell they want, they just place it right back. Right.
Yeah, it could just be a time differential somehow in between the dimensions. 45 minutes to us could be a week to them, or whatever.
That could be a possibility as well. True.
To what Wes said with him, this boasting of I only lose 1% of my herd and all this sort of stuff, could it be that maybe there was way more than 45 minutes worth of time that had passed between the last time he saw this calf, and it was out of embarrassment that he just said, I just had my eyes on it? Well, how long ago did you see it? 45 minutes or so. Or that he may have been lying about the amount of time, like purposefully, because now there's all this attention and stuff. The only thing that trips me out about this is that, because we talked about in the first one, that Terry they didn't sell their ranch for a large profit. I actually looked it up. The ranch was bought by the next person for only $200,000.
NIDS.
Very low, right?
Yeah, NIDS bought it for $200K.
Okay, so that was just like, and then the Skinwalker Ranch show, the new guy now owns it, right?
When he bought it for billions of dollars.
Right.
Yeah.
So they made a profit, but Terry did not. And then also
Actually,
wasn't a
it went to a couple before it was bought by the current owners.
okay.
So there was an owner in between who had very little strange occurrences, but they did happen. It wasn't uh, as present as it was for the Shermans or even for the NIDS name.
Well,
But there were a few.
to my point is that there wasn't a profit made by them.
Yes, no.
Although that's not to say that there couldn't have been an effort to maybe stir up enough of a, because look, I mean, I personally know a cattle rancher
Mhm.
like in Kansas right now, and he makes a good living, right? It's a lot of work. He's works, crazy hours. When he's not dealing with all that stuff, he's also, I think he grows soybeans, but he's constantly working. Now, if there was an opportunity for him to sell his property and all of his cattle and make way more money than he does with his current job, you know, maybe that could be a motivation to add a little bit or to, now it didn't happen, right? And that's weird. And I don't think he went and wrote a book about it, so that's weird. So there wasn't any effort for him to, you know, make money off of his own experiences, which you would expect, if someone had a bunch of crazy experiences and there was a bunch of weird incidences and stuff, and then they wrote a book about it and they were constantly pressing their book, that they would, that there would be reason to believe that some of the stories may not have been as truthful as they laid it down as. But that didn't happen in the circumstance. So that's throwing me for a loop. But maybe from the perspective of this guy is, boasting, whether that's ego or whether that's, some sort of pride level that he has, that I only lose so much of my herd every single season. I'm such a good, I'm such a good rancher, blah, 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 all this sort of stuff. I raise the best beef, everything. And then suddenly one dies and it's like, man, I just saw that thing, I just had my eyes on that thing,
The
is that
aliens
true?
took my
I mean,
calf.
is that true? I don't know. Cause here we are, just the section just before this, he's talking about, some animal that he shot at. And then suddenly after, this cast isn't taken. And then now he's saying that there was actually two of them, so it's like, is what he's saying honest and truthful if no one else is around to observe and to say, yes, it was 45 minutes, I was with him, I don't
Well,
know.
Calm did see the creature as well. So whether there was two of them or not, I don't know. But the creature was spotted by two different people. Terry was the only person, him and his dogs, that first person witnessed the killing from afar of the creature or of the calf.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't even witnessed; it was heard, right? Or more or less, he heard his dogs alerting to it,
Right.
which brought his attention to it. He didn't, as far as I know, he didn't really hear like the calf bleeding
Right.
or like the mother cow bleating. Um, so I don't know. Yeah, I mean, all of these are perfectly reasonable. I don't, you know, I mean, when you're talking about missing time and stuff like that, or paused time, or time dilations between multiverses, um, that's as much sense as you can make out of that stuff, right? So there's a level of unbelievableness to it that you gotta take with a grain of salt.
I mean, at the same time, I've been watching this show, and there's apparently nuclear radiation leaching out of the ground and affecting people's, like, giving people tumors in their, skulls and
Yeah.
stuff. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of weird stuff going on here that I
Yeah.
do believe could be happening, right? And the whole dish idea that it's a big, a big satellite dish, but on the ground, right? But so yeah, a lot of weird stuff going on, but interesting so far. It's
I
I'm
can't wait to do the last episode. I think that's going to be the funnest when we get to dive into some of the theories behind Skinwalker Ranch, like what's really going on, and then we dive into our own opinions. I think that's going to be the real golden episode of this series. It's going to be fucking fantastic.
Let me guess. He bought this property to make a cattle ranch on because it was so cheap because it used to be used for nuclear weapons testing. Out in the middle of nowhere. And he's just like,
I don't
$10 an acre? Yep.
You give me money to buy this?
Yeah, right.
No. Does anybody else have anything else? We are halfway through this episode. Jeffrey, are you okay? Do you need to call this and we'll do part 3?
You gonna go another 2 hours? Because that's what we're about to hit.
We're about to hit an hour and 15 minutes, sir.
Gosh, he's so dramatic. He's like Terry Sherman.
Well, if you count the time we were bullshitting before and the time we're gonna
true.
after.
You're right. It is almost 2 hours after we started. So, are you guys good with cutting it here? We're going to be cutting right between the calf and the bull. We're going to talk about bulls next, and then finish off NIDS in part 3. And then part 4 will be possibilities and our own personal perceptions of Skinwalker Ranch. What do you guys think?
I mean, I'm down with whatever.
Yeah, I'm down with whatever.
I'm cool with that.
Jeff,
It just totally reminded me of Skinwalker, though. Or not Skinwalker. It totally reminded me of Step Brothers. It's the calf and the bull situation.
Mess with the calf, you get the bull.
I had the young calf. Now I want the old bull or whatever he says.
Jeff, you're the limiting factor here, man. Your call. What do you want?
Why am I the limiting factor here?
Because you're the one that needs to go night.
Because it's not even
It's
7 p.m. for me. I'm not
Friday,
going to bed.
dude.
Right?
On a 3-day weekend, it doesn't matter. I mean, look, honestly, do I want to sit here for another 4 hours? No, because I've been sitting here working all day in this exact same spot. But
well, fuck it. We're gonna do it all right now. We're doing this for the Paranormal Network. We're not gonna hold off anymore. We're gonna make Jeff sit there and eventually quit this podcast. But let's talk about the bulls. Jeff, cut out as much as that little spiel as you can. We'll do the same thing on the audio. We'll move into the bulls. One of the most
you are
infamous,
blowing out your audio.
One of the most.
Whoa.
All right, I'm out. Bye.
The bulls. One of the most infamous incidents that happened on the ranch happened when Gwen and Terry were driving back to the area of the ranch that held their prized bulls. The couple were just there looking after their 2 black Angus and 2 black Simmental bulls, but as they returned 45 minutes later, they were gone. The corral where they were left was empty and silent. No signs or evidence left at all as to what could have happened. As Terry walked past an old white locked trailer next to the corral that hasn't been used in years, he was shocked to find that through the cutout window on the side, there stood the 4 bulls fitting perfectly and methodically into the cramped trailer that was still locked. The bulls seemed to be in a trance, almost as if they were frozen in time. Terry was very happy to see them and yelled out for Gwen, as Terry began to get really excited and started messing with the lock to let them out. The bulls sprang back to life and began to kick and belt their frustrations. Within the heated moments of their awakening, one of the bulls kicked so hard that one of the walls of the trailer fell over and the 4 animals ran out. Several hours later, Gwen and Terry had their bulls rounded back up in the corral and headed home 20 miles away to sleep for the night. A few days later, the NIDS team showed up to investigate Terry's claims. A few very interesting points that were made from the team was that indeed the only way into the trailer would have been through the still locked door at the back of the trailer. Cobwebs were still in place near the middle of the section, that the 2 doors would close into each other, which helped the case that however the bulls got into the trailer in the first place, it wasn't through the intended ways. Feces and damage were very present in the trailer, and the team held no concern that the animals were in fact in the trailer. A few things that they also found that didn't seem right about the story was that the space seemed to be too small to fit all 4 animals that weighed over 2,000 pounds each. And how would they get into the trailer in the first place? The team got to work investigating the area and found something very interesting. The metal bars closest to the trailer were magnetized. When one of the investigators passed by the area with the trailer, the handheld magnetic field detector went crazy, but was perfectly silent in other areas with similar structures as the metal bars in the corral. After hourly periodic testing, the magnetic force in the bars had completely diminished. As the team closed up their investigation to the corral where the bulls were kept, and when the sun went down, they began heading back to the trailer. A member of the team noticed and mentioned that the dogs were once again in their kennels and being very quiet. One of the dogs was even whimpering. So, let's talk about the bulls.
So in order to make steel magnetic, don't you have to like put a bunch of electricity through it?
Yeah,
Give it an
that's
electrical charge.
probably the quickest way to do it, though there is natural ways of doing it as well, obviously because there are natural magnets.
Yeah.
But I mean it is an odd occurrence though. It is.
Very.
I missed a good chunk of that because I had to step away to get some water and give my cat water. So unfortunately, I don't really have much for you on this one.
Thanks, Jeff.
Sorry.
I don't know, man.
Wes, kid.
I keep coming back to the dogs.
Mm-hmm.
First, this guy keeps losing his dogs. Like, that sucks.
He's a terrible pet owner.
Well, obviously. Can't keep his cows, can't keep his dogs. He should just not have animals. But this is now the second time that it's been mentioned, the dogs being completely silent and like cowering in their kennel, and that to me is a sure sign that whatever's around is not friendly, because not even the dogs want anything to do with it.
Dogs act that way around Bigfoot.
They
Ding.
do. They do.
Fair, but nobody said Bigfoot was friendly.
Well, this is why I keep saying like interdimensional, and like every time we do an episode is because I think even Bigfoot is like one of these creatures that just doesn't quite exist in this dimension, you know, and that's why it's so evasive. So maybe maybe dogs are just aware of this in some kind of way, and they're like, because dogs will go after bears, dude. Dogs will go after bears. You know, they'll chase a freaking mountain lion. You know, like they're not. Some of them are afraid, right? But some dogs aren't. And if you're a rancher, you got dogs that aren't scared. So maybe they're just like, whoa, this is some otherworldly shit.
That's true. Yeah, I had Rhodesian Ridgebacks, African lion hounds, like literally made to hunt lions and stuff, or bred. So yeah, you're right.
Or something has asserted its dominance over the dogs.
Yeah.
I am pack leader. You stand down.
Mean like something mounted a dog?
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe.
Unless these beings are millions of years old and dogs have evolved knowing that these things have existed and they're just terrified of them from genetic memories.
I love you, Jeff. Wes, you all right, man?
Yeah. I think that dogs are just more sensitive to things happening around them. You know, most animals are very sensitive to their environment, you know, whether it's, you know, birds, freaking I don't know, just any wild animal. It's almost like they have a sixth sense when it comes to just crazy shit happening, you know. A lot of places where like volcanoes are about to erupt or whatever out of nowhere, you know, animals are fleeing the area beforehand, you know. There's just multiple examples of things like that happening, and I think that's why the dogs are just going nuts, because they're just like, there's something out there and they don't like it, you know. They feel it as a threat, and you know, so far this presence on the ranch has shown itself to be a threat to them, you know, multiple times. So yeah, that's my thoughts on why the dogs are going nuts.
I agree with Wes. You know, animals, whether they're household pets or birds or whatever it is, act erratic and flee when it comes to weather events, hurricanes, tornadoes, natural occurring events. If we're to assume that it's because of the change in magnetic fields or something like that, and this property is just pulsating that crap just constantly, right? And constantly having some sort of a natural or other than natural occurrence on it where it's just emitting all this energy and radiation and stuff like that, like we see on the show, right? Where they have all the beams and stuff and they have a focal point and everything. Then the dogs acting erratic could have really nothing to do with any sort of beings on the thing. It could be just simply because maybe they're trapped they have this desire to flee and to escape, but they're trapped because there's at some point fences around their location. There's nowhere to go to escape this, impending doom that all animals seem to sense that we're just completely dumb to.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, Wes, I think, hit it pretty well. Animals know better. Simple as that, right? We don't know.
Yeah.
We're dumb.
Idiots. Yeah. We're
Yeah.
just morons. Just standing around looking at the tornado like, wow, let's take a selfie.
Wes is like, I could have done a better job at this. This guy sucks. You getting tired there, Wes? You all right?
No, I'm all right.
Oof. You sure?
Yep.
All right, man. I love you. Okay.
Love you
Good.
too.
Ah, there it is. All right. All right. Another magnetic anomaly. The day immediately after the bowls were stuffed into a locked trailer, and the same day that the NIDS crew showed up to investigate how the bowls completed such a feat, the Shermans witnessed another strange event. As Terry and Gwen Sherman were driving around the ranch doing their daily checks on all of the animals, they noticed one cow standing in front of a light blue salt lick on the edge of a tree line staring into the trees. They watched as the animal began backing away slowly towards the rest of the herd. Out of the corner of Terry's eye, a compass that he began carrying on him as a way to tell that there was an entity around began to point in the direction of the cow's stare. As the lone cow joined in with the others, they all began to split into two groups, one moving west, one moving east, as if there were a school of fish swimming away. Fish swimming away from a shark that chose to swim on through. The compass continued to follow whatever was forcing the herd to split. The Shermans continued to watch the herd and the compass and track whatever was bothering the cattle for 11 minutes. Then it simply continued on past the herd, and the compass went back to normal. This story was passed down to the NIDS team for both Terry and Gwen as the whole crew went back to the trailer for the night after investigating the bulls and noticing that the dogs were once again scared and silent. So that was a short one. What do you guys think?
Same thing. Look, it's invisible creatures, man.
The
They're
predators
not quite
there.
here. Yeah, they're like predators. They're not quite in this dimension, but maybe they just kind of can somehow,
I'll be honest, when I was in every instance that I read about this or listened to it in The Hunt for a Skinwalker, my first take was what made him instantly go for the compass. That just seemed out of I don't know.
Yeah.
It was just like why would he think to do that at first? But then, for all I know, he seemed like a very smart guy. He's ranch smart, but like things like this happening are things that don't happen to even the average person, having these kind of phenomenon and just weird things happening. Maybe at some point he noticed that, there was magnetic anomalies, I don't know. And he just kept the compass around from there on out, that maybe think, okay, he just put two and two together. Whenever stuff happens, I can kind of see the direction it's at. I think that it might be something as simple as that. But it is pretty wild that not only was he able to see out on his compass, but like you said, it was just like a school of fish parting for a predator like a shark or something swimming through. And I don't know. For all we know, this could be a real creature that you just can't see in the spectrum of light that we as humans are able to see. For all we know, I don't know.
Shit, you should have been here for the Carter Bushheart episode. It was Bigfoot. Simple as that.
We saw this in the
Bigfoot it out.
we saw this in the show too. Like all the cows grouping together, scared, like they were packing in so tight that they were then fighting and ramming into each other, and they were all freaking out and stuff. Wasn't that the same time that they saw that UFO? They saw it like right above them.
Man,
I've seen a couple of UFOs in that show.
I haven't watched that show in probably over a year.
But it's just like, so I'm glad that they at least brought it up, or that you brought it up in this, because I thought that was strange, right? That's one of those things from that show where I'm just like, why are they doing that? If this is all, hokey and fake and stuff, that all the cows were bunching up together and fighting and, going crazy and stuff. Then they saw the UFO above it. And so, yeah, but I guess my opinion on it remains the same, that I think that it's a response to a magnetic or some sort of a frequency anomaly versus a creature or interdimensional type being or something like that. Yeah, why not?
I mean, you believe in demons, right, Jake?
Yeah. You could say that demons are interdimensional,
that's
things
exactly what
on
I
a
think.
different plane, right? It's the same plane, except one of them's visible and one of them's invisible. Right. You could call them
frequencies.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing as what Wes was saying with not being able to see them because they're in a different light frequency. Maybe they just exist in like a different frequency band. That's why the scientists couldn't see anything with all their equipment and shit either, right? So maybe it's just a whole different frequency that we just don't even know about, but they have the ability to kind of phase in and out. That's why people see them once in a while.
But why are they grouped in that area then?
The Earth is covered and spotted in all kinds of places that were considered portals to other dimensions by ancient cultures all over the planet, so it's like maybe this is just one of them. Maybe
what's that
where
hot spots?
The threshold is thinnest.
Right. What's that thing that you always talk about, the ley lines?
Yeah, like ley lines and shit.
Is there
Skinwalker Ranch
an intersection here?
Yep,
it's on a ley line. Look at that, perfect. Okay. Boom, it's right on a fucking game over. Shut it down. We're done. Go home.
Now, what's that smell? Is it sulfur? Is the smell sulfur?
Oh, Jake's following on with my notes. Yeah. No, I wanted to take a step back and kind of comment on, or piggyback. I'm going to piggyback off of Wes here.
No, don't do that.
Yes, I'm piggybacking. So, what Wes was talking about, for the listeners, if you haven't read this book before, I remember specifically in this book, the way that they had brought the compass into the story was very matter of fact. It was just like, and then
nowhere.
Yeah, and he just like grabbed a compass. He was like, "Oh wait, there's something right there. Let me grab a compass." Right? I know it's really weird. I think it was in this book right here.
Ranch, maybe.
Nah, I mean, come on, man. Do you really need to find your direction on your own ranch? Come on, stop.
Dude, listen.
Right?
If you're an outdoorsy guy,
Thanks, Wes.
Right? There's outdoorsy people, and part of their EDC is like a compass and a knife and a gun and
but this is a guy that knows
but he's a rancher
and walks it at night. With no
anyways, besides the point, I believe it was in this book by Conrad Bauer. I could be wrong, but I believe it was in this book where they actually dove into the compass a little bit more and explained that it was due to him, just like Wes was saying, as he was, trying to make sense of the compass. Wes is right. It was due to one anomaly that was magnetic, and he was like, I know that compasses act strange to magnets, and started carrying a compass as a primitive tool to be used instead of more modern ones like video cameras to try to capture evidence of an anomaly. So that answers that. Hunt for the Skinwalker is a great book, but they did a piss poor job bringing the compass into the story. So just wanted to clear that up. All right, good to go. You guys ready to find out what that smell is, Jake?
Yeah, what's that smell?
This is
Yeah.
actually probably my shortest section in this entire series, so we'll breeze through this real quick. 2 days went by without anything happening. All right, we're all done. No, I'm just kidding.
I
All
wish
right.
we had a sound clip of ooh, that smell just for that moment right there.
What's that smell? 2 days went by without anything happening, but on the third day, when the team was taking plaster casts, there it is, of strange prints on the ground, a horrible stench filled the air, and members of the team claimed to feel the hair on the back of their necks stand up. Kelleher claimed that this was one of the few times during his time on the ranch that he felt immediately threatened. Nobody on the NIDS team saw a thing, but Terry would later claim that the same smell has been around plenty of times during his stays on the ranch. Often, it is followed up by an event. Nothing came that particular night, but this would not be the last run in. It would not be the last run in with this horrible smell. There would be times in the future that the smell would come in stronger and even inside of the research trailer. So that's it. We actually don't talk about the smell anymore.
Sounds like brimstone to me.
Ooh,
Well,
Jacob.
sulfur.
And you're talking about specifically when the NIDS were smelling it, right?
Yeah.
Because the podcast that I first listened to, the first time I ever listened to it or heard anything about Skinwalker Ranch was through another podcast to listen to, and they cracked me up. It was probably one of my favorite parts of that particular episode. They're talking about the smell and how it suddenly appeared in their research trailer. And one of them was like, "Oh yeah, you're telling me all these researchers are sitting in here for hours eating junk food, whatnot? Freaking sulfur-like smell didn't appear out of nowhere."
They felt a rumbling and suddenly smelled a terrible smell. What is that?
I think it's pretty easy to solve where that one came from.
That's funny. That's hilarious because
Terry's like, "Oh yeah, I've smelt that before. Weird.
It's my ass.
Smelt that all the time.
It's like from Blazing Saddles.
Wake up in bed and smell it. Yeah, right.
Around the fire.
Yeah, just blowing it up. Yeah.
Oh, good one. Good one. Yeah,
that movie. Oh god.
I didn't catch that, but yeah, it was probably just a fart.
Yeah, they brought it up in that, and I like. There's moments in that they say the wild off the wall shit, and that just like caught me off guard, and I was dying laughing. Oh man, but I mean, I was like, man, that's a pretty simple explanation to that. I feel like, I don't know.
You know what's funny is I wonder if researchers that write books and even Hunt for the Skinwalker in that book came across the same conclusion, because it is so briefly talked about in every book. Like
it only happened in a short period,
right?
And then it was there and it was gone, and that was it.
It was gone with the wind.
After the most aggressive pot of chili that everyone had ever eaten, a ominous smell, an ominous stench wafted through the trailer.
You don't say.
And no one claimed ownership because, indeed, whoever smelt it had dealt it.
Oh, dude, that's
I'm
good.
a fan of that theory there.
Good theory. Problem solved. That mystery of Skinwalker Ranch no longer a mystery. Yep. The only the people who are downwind of Terry Sherman smelt that smell.
That's right.
All right. Moving on. Not much to talk about there. We are watching you. Quote, "There's a huge black thing in the trees just in front of us, and it's moving north." This is what one of the NIDS members said as the team was staked out one night in response to viewing a large creature through the night vision goggles. Aloof, the men and dogs stood up and gazed at the tree line the researcher was pointing at. The investigator who spotted the creature continued to point out that whatever it was huge, and that he couldn't tell if it was in front, behind, or in the tree line, but whatever it was blocking out the stars as it walked. When the same man seemed to stop moving completely and said in a calm voice, quote, We are watching you. Then, whatever it was, the man continued to say that it was shrinking and that it was gone. When asked to elaborate on what he witnessed, the man told the crew that whatever it was physical, as he witnessed the stars behind it disappear and reappear as it moved, and talked to him in his mind and let me know that they were watching us. And when it did, I literally could not stop myself from repeating exactly what it was saying to me.
Bro, that's that Bigfoot mind speak.
That's the Bigfoot mind speak. That's what Carter Bushard talks about right
Yep.
there. Mind speak. Jeff, you were in that episode with us, right?
Yeah, I was. And yes, that's interesting. I like this. Yep.
Cool. Kid, were
Telepathic.
you with us then?
Nope, I was
No.
not.
That was a long time ago. Those are good episodes. If anybody's wanting to dive into paranormal Bigfoot stuff, you know, the woo-woo side of Bigfoot, check out our interviews with Carter Bushard, who is a quantum Bigfoot researcher. He's done work with Ron Moorhead, done some really good stuff, has 2 awesome books out, books that he personally filled with photos taken from, you know, his own investigations, stories from his investigations, and stories of other people's stories that have come to him to get his theories and takes on what could be possibly happening. There was one particular one about a Sasquatch. If I'm remembering correctly, Jake, it was a mouse, right? There's a Bigfoot mouse and a big like bundle of sticks or something, or like a bonfire pit, right? Do you remember that? It was insane. No,
I don't know. I'd have to go back and listen.
it was a long time ago, man.
I
Long
mean,
time ago.
it could have been a couple months ago. We have so many episodes in between that it's hard to keep track, you know?
True. Like we said before, a lot of this stuff, man, we have to dump just so we can make room for the next thing. But all right, let's move on. Anybody else have anything to say before we move on to the next bit? Nope. Okay. Let's talk about this smudge again. On the night of August 25th, 1997, 2 scientists with Bigelow's NIDS team were 6 hours into a stakeout on one of the observation decks when one of the team members noticed an orange glow out in the distance. What they originally thought to be a reflection of some sort slowly grew, and the two-man team became much more interested in the anomaly. Once the orange light grew to about a foot wide, one of the researchers handed the other the only pair of night vision goggles amongst the two and quickly began setting up a time-lapse shutter camera to attempt to get the orange light on film. Now, I want to make a correction here. They were not goggles, they were binoculars. Just wanted to correct that. As one investigator was setting up the camera, the other man yelled, "Something is in the tunnel." The tunnel began to grow even larger, and the man with the binoculars began to describe a large, dark, no-faced bipedal creature climbing out of the light. The same man would later describe that while looking through the night vision binoculars, the orange light seemed to look more like a 3-dimensional tunnel. The other man could not see the creature coming out of the light and never saw a tunnel without the binoculars that the other was using. But he was able to witness the light growing to the size of about 2 feet in diameter before beginning to shrink back to nothing. The investigator with the binoculars described a roughly 6 foot, 400-pound, all black creature with a distinguishable face. Without a distinguishable face, standing in front of the tunnel. It crawled out before walking off and eluding the researchers the rest of the night. Unfortunately for the team, all of the equipment around the ranch failed to capture anything abnormal. A camera set to take a photo every 30 seconds in that general direction, as well as measurement tools used for capturing data on X-rays, gamma rays, beta rays, and infrared lighting, all failed to capture evidence of the 2 investigators' claims. The only physical evidence from that night is a single photo that shows what seems to be a very faint light source. The picture was taken with a 90-second shutter from the camera used by the man that was not using binoculars. At a later date, the NIDS team would have another strange event end with another orange portal. This time, the team would be hot on the trail of a Bigfoot-like creature on the outskirts of the ranch. Just as the team felt like they had the creature cornered and were on the verge of making a gigantic discovery, one of these orange portals appeared and the bipedal creature walked through before collapsing on itself and disappearing. And like in the previous episode, I have included another story of an orange smudge showing up in other parts of the world. You guys are going to love this one because we talked about this briefly in another episode. This event is much more famous than the one from the last episode about a small-time farmer in Wisconsin. This time, we are heading to Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana, where in 1975, an orange light was seen over the base's heavily guarded nuclear missile silos. A group of fighter jets were dispatched, and the bright orange light raised higher into the sky until it was no longer visible. Then, the event was over. When the event was over, the nuclear codes for the missiles and the silos were changed, and within a few weeks, 4 other nuclear bases along the U.S. and Canadian border would suffer the similar events. This event at Malmstrom Air Force Base has been verified via the Freedom of Information Act and on a public congressional hearing on UFOs and UAPs in May 17th of 2022.
Good tie-in.
Right? Love it. And we just talked about that during that damn congressional hearing. We had a special where we talked about it because it was brought up in that congressional hearing, the public one at least. I'm sure it was brought up in the private one too, where they had talked about this particular thing, and the people who were being questioned by Congress about it didn't know anything about it. So
acted like they had no idea. They're like, what?
Like, what?
Never heard of that before. They're like, really?
This is verified via Freedom of Information Act, the biggest event to ever happen on U.S. soil, or documented on U.S. soil via UFO or UAP or whatever the fuck you want to call them. You know nothing? Come on, shut the fuck up. Bullshit. Just say we'll talk about it in the private one.
Likely story.
I don't think they do, but hey, I was talking about portals, man. They were, so there you go, man. Maybe they really are they're opening portals, man. I mean, dude, it's the whole reason we even can conceive that idea, I feel like, and this is just my belief, right, is because there's some reason that thought exists. Like, we must have experienced something along the way that has embedded itself so that we can come up with something, right? So just like an idea of portals, and you see it in movies and games all the time, right, where portal opens and some beings come out that you've never seen, aliens come through, right? It's like, where does that idea come from? And it's like, well, maybe it comes from the fact that these things have always been around, and we're just constantly seeing them. We just now got the internet. We just, it really, if you look at the grand scheme of humanity, we just now got like radio,
and podcasts. Yeah.
Podcasts, but even if you go back a couple hundred years, you got nothing. So this could have been happening forever. And we're just now talking about like, there's these portals with these invisible dog-like creature beings that come through and eat shit.
Yeah. Eat anuses out of cows.
But how terrifying is that, dude? What if they're just probing? What if they're just probing, like, just to see where we're at?
Just trying to see which things like things shoved up their asshole and what doesn't.
And once every 27,000 years, right? Like, the portals open everywhere. And it's just armies of invisible dog men.
Yep. Cows don't.
Great
I
movie.
mean, they like it. Dogs don't really care for it. People or whatever, some like it, some don't. Bears don't like it. All right. So we have Wes that is now frozen. If you see the chat.
Yep.
So it sounds like we're going to have to migrate again. Oh, you can hear.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
can
Yeah,
see you and hear you.
Kenzar is the only one that's not frozen.
Oh, okay. Oh, she's
So-
the only one
Frozen.
that's frozen. She's frozen for me.
Yeah.
No, now she's frozen. Now the rest of you aren't.
Okay, now she's not.
Okay. All right, let's move
I
on.
don't know.
Jeff, go ahead and snatch that out of there too. He's like, no, that's staying. Okay.
Everything stays.
Everything stays. All right. We're actually almost done. We got 3 more sections.
3 hours.
I gotta take a quick break.
Yes. I will also go grab a Coca-Cola. Take a quick break, everybody.
Hurry up.
Sure.
Jeff is
Hurry.
like, fuck, I need to go to bed. I'm an old ass
Jeff is
man
not
with
doing
no
it.
hair.
Well,
So how about those maple leafs?
is this
How
a
about
hockey
'em?
thing?
I don't watch hockey. I just wanted to.
I don't either. That's why I asked. No.
I just wanted to be cheeky. So
The only sports I watch are the only ones with 2 wheels involved. Anything with motorcycles, that's pretty much what I keep track of, and that's about it.
I don't sports.
Have you ever seen that video? It's like a news team at like a college game of some sort, and there's like this blonde chick. She's wearing sunglasses upside down, and they're like, "Who you here for?" And she's like, "I'm here for sports." And she's like randomly pulling out freaking broccoli sprouts out of her pocket and just eating it, and then handing it to the camera person. And she's just like, I don't know who's playing, what they're playing. I'm just here like sports, you know. It's really dumb. I'll have to find it and send it to the group.
Do it.
It's really funny.
Wes, how am I doing?
How are you doing?
Yeah.
In what way?
You read the book. How am I doing with presenting the subject?
There's a
Be
lot
honest.
of details and stuff that are different from what's in Hunt for the Skinwalker. And I don't know. For me, I would take that one more. Like, I would use that more as a base point than the others because it's Hunt for the Skinwalker is written by a guy that was on the NIDS team that was there. You know, of course, I'm sure he's embellishing some things and whatnot.
So who's to say that this Conrad Bauer was not one of the unnamed guys from NIDS?
I mean, maybe, but at that point, if they are, then you know, who you can't. It'd be hard to choose one over the other, you know.
That's why I go with
But-
whatever has the most of the same information. That's what I mostly go through. There's very little times where I'll go with choice of heart, which would be, I honestly would, if I were to point in the direction of anybody going to read a book on Skinwalker Ranch, it would be Hunt for the Skinwalker for sure. But I would
mean-
always say you should look at multiple sources.
Yeah, definitely for sure. Hunt for the Skinwalker, I thought it was well written. It was written in a way that draws you in, like you want to keep listening to it, and so it was great for listening to on the road. I don't really read anymore. I don't have the time to just sit down and read a book, so I listen to audiobooks. And
Same.
yeah,
I hate reading.
I mean, I love reading. I don't have the time. I got other stuff I want to do.
Speaking of, are you guys working on your next subjects yet?
Yeah.
No,
I'm trying to decide
Stop
what I
guessing
want to
at me.
cover next.
I am not.
I know you're not.
You can
You
cover the Meg.
How
Wes.
do you know
I'll give it to you.
I'm
You
gonna let you
sure
have it.
know a lot
You
about
said
me.
you wanted it.
Tonight, Jeremy.
I know
I'm
a lot about you,
trying to
Jeffrey. You're
hold it.
just gonna get a guess.
Maybe it's a good idea.
All right, let's move on. Ready?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hyena. In July of 1999, Terry and Gwen Sherman were heading back onto the ranch when they noticed that their horses were running scared and causing a dust cloud to form in one of the corrals. As the Shermans approached, they saw a reddish-brown fur-covered animal running on all fours, herding and nipping at the horses. Terry was pissed because what he thought was just a dog having fun was not fun to the horses. But as they got even closer, Gwen commented that she didn't think that was a dog. and she was right. What the Shermans described to have seen that day was a very large and muscular hyena-like animal with a rather fox-like fluffy tail. It was very clear to the Shermans that this was no house dog, fox, coyote, or wolf, and that they were fairly certain this was not a hyena either. But that is exactly what they said it best resembled, very loosely. As they approached, the animal quickly ran away but left both of his horses bloody on their hocks. As a side note, in addition to the sighting of a hyena like animal, there were a few other sightings of such an animal post 1999 in the area. In one case, the witness was an employee of the ranch, and in another, it was a resident of the area a few miles away. Another creature that we have talked about on this show in this region of the U.S. is the Skinwalker, which we talked about for a little bit in the Beast of Bray Road episode, or series, actually. The Skinwalker is thought to have been a known prehistoric relative of the hyena, typically referred to as a ringdocus, that was black or dark brown in color, high shoulders, and a back that sloped down to its hindquarters. The creature's name to the Iowa natives, Skinwalker, means carrying off dogs. There have been stories all around the northern Midwest states of creatures matching the descriptions of the ringdocus. In the book Cryptozoology A to Z by Lauren Coleman and Jerome Clark, they reference a cryptozoologist by the name of Mark A. Hall that has documented sightings of a, quote, mean-looking, near wolf-like, and hyena-like animals from Alberta, Nebraska, Iowa, and Illinois. There is even a mounted taxidermied Rhodocus in existence and currently at the Madison Valley History Museum and is owned by the Idaho Museum of Natural History.
Man, they should have taken a cast of that footprint.
That's what I
'Cause
thought.
That's
They-
too smart.
If it left
Wow.
them.
But you know what this sounds like?
Hmm.
This sounds like the show where the alpaca got attacked.
Oh yeah. Wouldn't that be interesting? Just like amongst all the other stuff going on here, they also have at least one possibly non-extinct cryptid that's running around in that area.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not saying that those two things couldn't happen at the same time, but that is pretty cool because yeah, it absolutely sounds like they saw this thing, which is new enough to the extinction list that there's taxidermied remains and stuff, which could lead that there could be a few of them, right?
Right.
So that's pretty cool. Plus, that area does seem very remote. I was like looking at the terrain and stuff. I was like, I mean, it's like perfect.
Well, when you think of mesas, right, or basins such as the Uinta Basin, the cave systems is something that is referenced quite a bit. You have to believe that there are tons of them throughout that area. I mean, the ringdocus was, I believe that the one that is in Idaho on display was shot in Illinois. I could be wrong about that, but this was a creature that was said to have been living around the area as recent as during the Native American, times before
Right.
the Eastern world came over. So, I mean, could they have one of these ringdocuses or Shinkowakin running around Skinwalker Ranch or around the area? I think they could.
For sure. That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah,
That's the
I
first
think so
thing
too.
I truly buy in this whole thing. Where I'm just like, yeah, that makes sense.
All right, you guys ready to move on?
I am, yeah.
We know Jeff is. All right, moving on. What about the locals? The NIDS team had many goals when it came to the ranch. One of those was to document historical and recent sightings from the locals. The local Utes and non-native residents of the basin came forward with many stories of multiple colored balls of light, cattle mutilations, and a particular triangular craft. In one particular story outlined in the book, Hunt for the Skinwalker, Kelleher and Knapp tell of Mr. Gonzalez and the time he found one of his cows laying on the ground with two broken legs in a field that she should not have been in. He left her to go home and get a blanket to cover her in, and on his way out, he checked to see how she could have gotten out of the pasture. There were no broken or bent fences, and all of the other animals were accounted for inside the gates. As he returned 5 minutes later to the spot he had left her, she was gone. Later that evening, he happened to look out his window to see the cow 50 yards away from her original position. This time, when he approached her, he saw that all 4 legs were now snapped. Mr. Gonzalez made the decision to put her out of her misery, but the question of what happened to her still bothers him. In another story, highlighted by Kelleher and Knapp, Dean Derrick, was visiting his uncle's house that bordered Skinwalker Ranch in 1980 when he witnessed a silver sphere sitting on the ground. Dean claims that the sphere was 30 to 40 feet wide and resembled an upside-down bowl. Most stories from the people in around the Uinta Basin end with just a sighting of something they cannot explain. Unfortunately, to go over all the stories and the strangenesses that happen outside of Skinwalker Ranch, but still within the area known as the Uinta Basin, would take far too long. But one thing is for certain. The NIDS team easily came to the conclusion that the ranch did not hold a magical invisible border where strangeness and the unknown stop. The entire basin was the home to a plethora of uncanny activity.
Sweet.
I do have one last section. You want me to just go ahead and finish it up real quick?
Yeah.
Sure.
Tie this bow. By the end, there was not much to show for the research. The team had built many small observation buildings and dog housings. The team learned that the dogs were the best alarm for anything about to happen, and the team felt like there was so much left to uncover about the mysteries of Skinwalker Ranch. On top of all we talked about today, and in the past few episodes, there were some instances that we did not talk about during this period. Instances such as items going missing within seconds of someone putting it down, a 2,500-pound ditch digger was lost and found up a tree, damage to the inside of buildings that were locked, strange lights in the middle of rainstorms, and another magnetic anomaly which seemed to be emanating from Gwen Sherman until she exited the trailer and it disappeared. And as well, one small red orb that attacked cows, horses, and the Sherman's son. Skinwalker Ranch was not the only place under the investigation of the NIDS team. In the summer of 1997, the NIDS team split their time between the Sherman's Ranch and the area known around Dulce, New Mexico. But more on that in another episode of The Infinite Rabbit Hole. Give me just a second here, guys. Something happened. Cut this out, please. Please, Jeffrey. Bear with me. All right. Let me make this bigger. Robert Bigelow pulled the plug on the NIDS research team in 2004. The grants from the government for research dried up and were never renewed. There you go. That's a big clue right there. At least for me. And I'm sure for Jeffrey. And for Jake. And for Wes. And for Kit. Money was no longer flowing in for Bigelow, and he simply lost interest in the ranch. But that wasn't the end for Robert Bigelow. In fact, immediately after shutting down of research on Skinwalker Ranch, Bigelow Aerospace began to really blow up. A contract with NASA was won for the creation of special modules for the International Space Station. Another interesting contract that Bigelow was awarded was for a part of the Pentagon's UFO study known as the Advanced Aviation Threat Initiative, aka AAVTI, in 2007. This program was classified top secret until December 2017 and was founded to have a budget of $22 million between 2007 and 2012 for Bigelow Aerospace for their contributions. The end. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
What about the closets with the double locks?
That was from
Yeah, what the heck?
pre-Sherman's. That was from before the
I still
Sherman's.
want answers.
Yeah. I need answers.
Yeah, there's still a lot. that I want to know. I would like to just go. Let's just go.
We can't.
Can we go?
We can't.
Well, you say can't, but we're sovereign citizens. Let's just go.
Right.
Yeah.
What's the problem?
Sure, fuck it. Let's do it.
I mean, they stormed Area 51, right? We could do this.
Did
It's
they
owned by a
storm
private
Area
person
51?
now. I mean,
They
it's just
stormed.
trespassing.
We'll just let them know. Be like, listen, hey man, look, we're doing a podcast. We
We're a
want to come
research
check it
team.
out. We're gonna come stay like 3 nights, 4 nights out. We're gonna camp out on the ranch. What's up?
Yeah, fuck it. Go ahead. You do
Yeah.
you do the reaching out, and I'll take the time off work.
All right.
It's
Hmm.
not happening. I would love
All
to.
right.
I think
We'll
it'd be
see.
really cool.
You'll
It'd
be
be really cool.
surprised. I had
All
Tommy
right.
Chong on my podcast. Don't test me, bro. I'll get in touch with these people.
And he was supposed to get Tommy Chong for our podcast too, but he never did.
He doesn't love us enough.
I gave you
Um,
the info.
Are there more sections to this series?
Just the theories behind Skinwalker Ranch and our thoughts and opinions. Honestly, I mean, we could talk about thoughts and opinions right now, but without going through all the theories, because there's a fuck ton of them.
That's a 2-hour conversation
Yeah.
by itself.
Right.
Okay,
So
just making sure.
yeah, don't worry. There's more to go through, but this is about it, story based wise. Like I said in the first episode, I'm not really going to dive into the current stuff because that current stuff is all on the History Channel. If you want to go
Yeah.
and dive into the History Channel and learn about the current stuff that's going on right now as we speak, that's the place to go.
Right.
We
Go see
can't do it
them.
better than that.
Go see them fake it. Yeah.
Yeah, go see it.
Currently, I'm on board with Jeff for the most part. Like, I think he and I are jiving.
I think it's the demons, bro.
He made the parallel for me of getting away from interdimensional beings into something more in my wheelhouse, and made those bridges in the thought process, and I'm like, yep, yeah, probably. Now, why is there so much of this magnetic anomaly or this these radioactive anomalies or whatever it is? Why is this a hot spot for it? No clue. Like, I don't know if I buy into the whole ley lines thing. Now,
You should.
that doesn't mean that I can't be wrong, right? But I just don't, I haven't looked into it enough to have a good opinion formulated about it. But definitely seems to be a high amount of craziness going on, whether that is psyop related or just it's a big old expanse of nothing out there except for some ranches and stuff, so not the worst place in the world to conduct militaristic drills. Maybe there's increased seismic activity right there, but not in the form of earthquakes and stuff, but more in the form of radiation coming up from the bowels of the earth. Maybe there's a freaking tunnel to the inner earth right there, or the hollow earth for Jeff. I don't know, but certainly I believe
Another
that
Mel's
some of it's
hole.
going on. Yeah, right. There's Mel's hole in there. Certainly I believe that there's some of it going on, but I think that there's a very high dosage, or at least a sprinkling of baloney just inside of there, mixed in with the stories and the not including the research teams, right? The research teams are doing their science, and then everything else around that seems to be like, oh, and then this happened, but there was zero evidence of it and stuff. The literally the first time this biologist has ever seen a footprint like this in his life, but we didn't take a cast because I don't know. We just, it's just like there's definitely some like, all right, this is made up, or this is flubbed, or this is
Red
really
flags.
what's that?
Red flags.
Yeah, red flags, or it was just like obvious. Either I don't want to say it was like things were looked over, but maybe things were concealed.
we'll see. Well, does anybody else have anything to say before we sign off?
I mean, I got a lot of theories, but I'll save it for the next one.
Yeah, I've got a couple ideas, but I want to hear the next episode first.
Copy that. All right.
I have one thing. I mean, I'll have more of an opinion, I guess, more to say at the end. But I mean, so far from what everything's happening, and from what we know today, so far, still, there's a lot that we don't understand, and I don't know. I don't necessarily buy that this is demons or anything, but the whole multiverse theory, or visitors from another dimension. I don't know. It's just crazy. But from everything Terry Sherman had told the NIDS about, what had happened prior to them arriving, and then a lot of that similar things happening afterwards, being witnessed by them, I think is pretty cool. Something definitely has been happening on that ranch, and I can't wait to really flesh out what I think about that. But it's pretty cool so far.
I think the next episode is going to be a blast. Just being honest with you.
Yeah, I got a lot.
Me too.
I want to say.
I will go ahead and just point my side at least and say that I do believe that there's something strange going on. Is it paranormal? I don't know. I'll hold that opinion for later, but I don't believe that this is all 100% people just fucking around and bullshitting and but not saying that it doesn't happen. Okay, definitely some of the things that we talked about tonight and during the last episode probably did not really happen. But there's so much here and so much more that there's got to be something. With that being said, if you made it all the way to the end of this episode, I do want to go ahead and throw out a couple ideas for some future episodes. If you liked what we talked about today and in the last episode about Skinwalker Ranch, you want to hear more stories from other people other than Terry Sherman and the NIDS team. Some of those fringe stories that aren't really talked about a lot, let me know. Okay. Leave a comment in the YouTube or shoot us an email at infiniterabbithole@gmail.com. Head on over to Facebook and join the Infinite Rabbit Hole Facebook group. Let us know. Send us a message. Make a post. Do what you got to do to let us know you want this. Because I have a couple books of other stories. And there is a whole series, 10-part series of books from one particular person who claims to have snuck onto the ranch enough times to write 10 fucking books.
So it's easy then. Let's go.
That's what I'm saying. Dude. Let's do it.
let's do it and get shot. Yay. No.
I don't want Dragon to come after me.
Yeah, Nighthawk. Oh, Dragon from the
Yeah.
fucking
so
the show.
fucking dumb, I'm not even gonna lie.
You have to
hate
call
that.
me Nighthawk. Yeah.
I literally rolled my eyes so hard I fell over.
Whitney
when they
rolls her
said,
eyes every single
oh
time
my
they
God.
call for Dragon over the radio. I'm like, ugh.
I know. It makes this argument extremely difficult, man.
He's dressed in all black. They're out there in the middle of the day. It doesn't matter what the temperature is. He's in all black. I'm like, oh my God, wearing
Doesn't
gloves
have a
and shit.
sling for
Get
his
the fuck
shotgun.
out of here.
He's just carrying it
Get the
around
hell
like
outta
a
here.
dork. Yeah.
Ugh.
Anyways, this has been another episode of the Infinite Rabbit Hole podcast. Make sure you hit us up. Don't forget that we have an entire audio catalog for you to check out. This is the first episode of our third year of doing this podcast, so there's plenty for you to check out. Head on over to infiniterabbithole.com. Check out our merch shop, who Jake puts a lot of work in there, and if you like that It's Probing Time t-shirt, this is the only place you can get it, because Jake made that in paint.
That's right.
Says a lot about you if you like that.
Hey, I like this shirt.
Next time I'll wear the Bigfoot nipple tee That says a lot about me too.
But thanks again for checking us out. Whether you're listening to us on your favorite podcast player or you're checking us out on the Paranormal Network. Tune in next time. We dive into the theories behind Skinwalker Ranch and our personal opinions about what could be behind the anomalies. Thank you, everybody, and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.